Hello, I'm Pradeep, and I'm excited to talk about our paper, which is Waiting Game Optimally Provisioning Fixed Resources for Cloud Enabled Schedulers. This work was in collaboration with Numan Bashir, David Irwin, and Prashant Shenoy. First, let's look at traditional job schedulers, which are designed to manage fixed resources at large scale for private clusters. As illustrated in this figure, these private clusters are often provisioned for peak demand and hence they incur a high capital cost since these fixed resources must be paid upfront. However, importantly, this figure also shows that this approach typically leads to significant resource waste since the average resource demand is much lower than the peak. To address this problem, private clusters could provision fixed resources for much less than their peak demand, which can significantly reduce their capital cost as shown here. Unfortunately, however, this causes potentially high job waiting time for resources during these peak periods, which often represent critical times such as product releases and deadlines. These trade offs for job scheduling are well known as there has been decades of research on scheduling policies for fixed resources, including many classic policies like first come, first serve, shortest jobs first, round robin, priority, and many more. These policies have been well studied both analytically and empirically in terms of their cost, throughput, and waiting time. However, in the recent past, cloud platforms from Amazon, Microsoft, Google started to offer a new approach to run these huge workloads. With cloud platforms, users have no upfront cost and only pay for the time that jobs actually use the resources. They can also lower the overall cost by eliminating resource waste as users no longer need to pay for the idle resources as shown in the figure. Importantly, jobs also never need to wait for resources as clouds provide illusion of infinite capacity, scalability. As a result, clouds offer best of best both worlds with lowering cost as well as no waiting time. Due to these benefits, most job schedulers are now cloud enabled and support auto scaling feature, where they can dynamically acquire cloud VMs upon jobs arrival and release these VMs whenever the respective jobs finish or terminate. There are many examples of different cloud enabled variants of popular job schedulers like Slurm, LSF, Kubernetes, and Mesos. Interestingly, when cloud enabled schedulers use auto scaling, there isn't really a scheduling problem as there is no resource constraint in the cloud. However, while there aren't hard resource constraints, cloud platforms do introduce new pricing dynamics to schedulers based on differences in cost between on-demand and fixed resources. Here, on-demand resources refer to resources that can be acquired and released at any time, and fixed resources refer to those where users need to commit to buying this for a long period. These fixed resources can either be reserved on cloud platforms or be on-premise servers that users can buy. The key point here being fixed resources are significantly cheaper if highly utilized. As a specific example, consider that reserving a M5.large VM from Amazon for 3 years costs close to $1,000, whereas renting the same VM from Amazon using on-demand VMs for 3 years costs $2,500. Note that with Amazon, a 3-year reserved VMs are 60% cheaper than on-demand VMs at 100% utilization. Even if we were to rent and use the on-demand VM for half the time, it would cost close to $1,250, which is still more expensive than reserve VMs. Clearly, given the price difference between on-demand and fixed resources, provisioning a hybrid cloud infrastructure that uses both will optimize the cost. Essentially, we should provision highly utilized fixed resources to satisfy the base load and then dynamically acquire on-demand resources to satisfy any load bursts. Many companies use this approach either by combining on-premise fixed servers with cloud bursting or using both reserved and on-demand resources from cloud like Netflix. But the key question is, how many fixed resources should be provisioned to optimize the cost given a workload? This is the central question for provisioning hybrid clouds. To answer these questions, we introduce the concept of waiting policy for the cloud-enabled schedulers. A waiting policy is dual of a scheduling policy. While a scheduling policy governs which jobs to run when fixed resources are available, waiting policy determines which jobs should wait for fixed resources and how long when fixed resources are not available. Importantly, the optimal provisioning resources for hybrid clouds is dependent on waiting policy, yet there is no prior work that explicitly defines or analyzes these waiting policies. As we'll show, different waiting policies will yield different and non-intuitive trade-offs between fixed resource provisioning, job waiting time, and overall cost. Of course, the key questions for waiting policies is which job should be waiting and how long they can wait. To summarize our contributions, we introduced this concept of waiting policy and defined many waiting policies such as all jobs wait, no jobs wait. We then developed analytical queuing models for each policy to understand their key trade-off between waiting time and cost. Finally, we implement these policies in a simulator and evaluate them in simulation on a real-world job trace with 14 million jobs on a 14,000 CPU core HPC cluster. Our waiting policies leverage classic marginal analysis from economics, which examine the additional benefits of some activity, in our case, adding another fixed resource and compare to its cost. Optimizing the mix of fixed and on-demand resources is a classic marginal analysis problem. To understand how marginal analysis works, let's go through an example. Here, we start by provisioning one unit of fixed resource and compute its utilization. In this case, it's 100%. So that unit of fixed resource is cheaper than acquiring an on-demand resource. We then add another unit of fixed resource and do the same analysis. We keep doing this until we hit a point called break-even point, beyond which adding one more unit of fixed resource would be expensive than buying on-demand VMs for running jobs. In Amazon case, this break-even point happens at 40% utilization since fixed resources are 60% cheaper than on-demand resources. The classic marginal analysis from previous slide assumes that jobs never wait and always run immediately on fixed or on-demand resources. This problem is straightforward to solve using standard queuing models using classic results by Erlang. However, there is no prior work on marginal analysis under waiting. The key point here being cloud schedulers can explicitly control how long the jobs can wait and which jobs to wait as well. Our modeling approach extends classic marginal analysis using a standard queuing model to understand the price waiting time trade-off in waiting policies. The model takes inputs as number of fixed resources S, job mean arrival rate lambda, and mean job service rate mu. As with standard models, here we assume that job arrivals and durations follow a Poisson process. Our model outputs normalized price P and mean waiting time W. Here we normalize the price relative to using all on-demand resources. Hence, if P were to equal 1, it means that price is equivalent to using all on-demand resources, and lowest P can go is 0.4, assuming Amazon's pricing and all fixed resources at 100% utilization. We derive analytical equations for both normalized price and mean waiting time and empirically validate them using a baseline example to illustrate their key trade-offs. For our empirical validation, we repeat 20 trials of 2 million jobs and plot mean with error bars. Our first policy is called All Jobs Wait or AJW, which we use as a baseline example that assumes that there are only fixed resources. In this policy, all jobs wait indefinitely for fixed resources and never rents any on-demand resources. The equations for normalized price and mean wait time are here. Please see the paper for their derivations. In this case, the model comes directly from a standard MMS queue. Here is the trade-off that AJW offers. Number of fixed resources is on the x-axis, normalized price is on the left y-axis, mean wait time is on the right y-axis. The key point here we want to highlight is AJW encourages over-provisioning to make sure that it has low waiting time, since the waiting time increases super linearly as we decrease the number of fixed resources. Our next policy is No Jobs Wait or NJW, where NJW is akin to existing autoscaling policies in cloud-enabled schedulers, and it runs jobs immediately on on-demand resources when fixed resources are not available. Again, we derive equations for both normalized price and mean wait time, and please see the paper for the derivation. For NJW, derivation of mean wait time is quite easy since it is zero by definition. Here is the trade-off that NJW offers. As before, number of fixed resources is on the x-axis, normalized price is on the left y-axis. Since mean wait time is 0, here we plot utilization of last resource from marginal analysis on the right y-axis. The key point here we want to make is NJW doesn't offer any price and waiting time trade-off. As a result, NJW provides users with no way to decrease their cost even if they are willing to wait longer. So far, we have seen two extreme waiting policies, where AJW yields a low price but potentially high waiting time, but NJW yields high price with no waiting time. Here, we define all jobs wait threshold or AJWT as a middle ground between these two extremes. In this policy, all jobs wait up to some threshold B if fixed resources are not available, and beyond that waiting point, scheduler acquires on-demand resources to run those jobs. The normalized price for AJWT is similar to that of NJW. The difference is how we compute the value R, which represents fraction of jobs running on on-demand resources, and it is discussed in the paper. Waiting time has two components here. The left components, which is very complex, represents the mean wait time for the jobs which run on fixed resources, and the right component, which is R into B, represents mean wait time of the fraction of jobs that wait B amount of time and eventually run on on-demand resources. This graph shows how AJWT's normalized price minus the gap between NJW and AJW based on the wait time threshold B. The key point is that AJWT offers configurable price and wait time trade-off based on this threshold. Our next policy is short waits wait or SWW, which is similar to AJWT. In SWW, it runs jobs on fixed resources when they are available, but when they are not available, jobs wait if and only if their wait time is less than some threshold B. Hence, SWW requires its scheduler to estimate jobs waiting time upon arrival, and if that waiting time is more than this threshold B, the jobs are immediately run on on-demand resources without any waiting. Importantly, the set of jobs that run on on-demand resources in SWW is same as that of AJWT. Hence, normalized price of both AJWT and SWW is exactly the same. However, the difference in both the policies is that SWW will always yield strictly lower waiting time than AJWT, since the jobs that eventually run on demand in SWW would never wait B amount of time like AJWT. We can see that in the mean wait time equation. Notice the R into B term missing. SWW has same normalized price as AJWT, so we only plot mean wait time as a function of normalized number of resources here. The key point here being SWW wait time is strictly less than AJWT, and this difference in wait time increases with more resource constraint, which causes more queuing and potential for waiting. Our next policy is long jobs wait or LJW. Our intuition here is that longer running jobs should be willing to wait longer for fixed resources, since their waiting time would be small proportion of their running time as opposed to shorter jobs. Hence, in LJW, schedulers estimate each job's runtime, and if it is less than a threshold T, they run those jobs immediately on on-demand resources, and else the long jobs wait indefinitely for fixed resources similar to AJW policy. Again, the equations for normalized price and mean wait time are here. The details of their derivations are in the paper. Here is the LJW's trade-off. Again, left y-axis is normalized price, right y-axis is mean wait time. On the x-axis we have short job threshold. The main point we want to make here is that it LJW offers a nice trade-off since on the left side of the graph for the shorter thresholds, the price increases less steeply than mean wait time decreases. Thus, increasing the short job threshold in a little bit yields large reduction in mean wait time for small increase in the price. Unlike the scheduling policies, waiting policies are not mutually exclusive. We can apply multiple waiting policies at the same time. As a result, we can also analyze a compound policy that combines all the waiting policies we have discussed thus far. We also define a new metric called opportunity cost of waiting, which equates running time and waiting time equally. This is computed using price into wait time. Since we want lower price as well as lower waiting time, lower the metric, better it is. See the paper for equations of our compound policy. This graph compares the opportunity cost of all of the policies we have discussed. We can see how SWW and LJW betters AJW and how compound policy combines all of those advantages and yields lowest opportunity cost here. Hence, the key point we want to make here is that compound policy yields the best price waiting time trade-off by combining advantages of all the waiting policies. Coming to implementation, we have implemented a simple waiting time policy analyzer and trace-driven simulator in Python. Our policy analyzer takes input of waiting time, waiting policy name, baseline parameters, and some policy specific thresholds like waiting time threshold, and it outputs normalized price and mean waiting time. On the other hand, our trace-driven simulator takes input as job trace, number of resources, policy name, and policy specific thresholds, and it outputs same thing as policy analyzer for comparison purpose. We have publicly released our simulator at UMass Trace repository. Please look at it. We have evaluated our waiting policies on a year-long batch trace with 14 million jobs from a production HPC cluster which contains 14.3 thousand CPU cores. This HPC cluster is UMass System Share cluster and it is used by researchers. Here we assume a large 64 core machine as single fixed resource to avoid or mitigate any imperfect job packing on VMs. For these experiments, we chose a waiting time threshold of 24 hours, which is about twice the current scheduler's waiting time, which is around 13 hours. And our long job threshold is 3 minutes so that our dataset can be divided into 40% shorter jobs and 60% longer jobs. This graph shows the normalized price of our different waiting policies as a function of number of VMs. The point here is that the optimal policy, which is compound policy at 150 VMs, is 5% cheaper than current cluster, which is equivalent to 225 VMs. Also note that optimal compound policy as well as current cluster are both 20 to 25% cheaper than NJW policy here. This graph then shows the mean waiting time for different policies. At optimal with 150 VMs, compound policy yields up to 7x lower waiting time than the current cluster, which yields a mean waiting time of around 13 hours. Hence, compound policy not only yields 7x lower waiting time but also yields 5% lower price as well. To conclude, our key contributions are introduction of waiting policy and defined multiple waiting policies, and we then applied simple queuing models to understand their key trade-offs. And in the end, we showed the benefits of applying waiting policies on a real-world job trace. We believe this is a promising new research area for cloud-enabled scheduling, and we are currently implementing these waiting policies in a real job scheduler like Slurm by using machine learning. Finally, we also believe that waiting policy concept is a generic and applicable to other domains where there is an option to rent or buy resources, for example, transportation, energy, etc. Thanks for attending my talk. Now I'll take any questions related to our paper.